Earlier today, Rick and I sat down and talked to the author, Del Wilber, about his new book called Rawhide Down, about the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan.
This week marks the 30th anniversary of the near assassination, the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. And our guest now is the man who has brought some fascinating new details into the analysis and the understanding of those events. Del Wilber, the author of the brand new book, Rawhide Down. And Del, thanks for being here. I want to start with some of the behind-the-scenes details that you have gathered through all this. For starters, Ronald Reagan came a lot closer to death, I think, than anyone realized at the time.
Oh, Ronald Reagan's life hung in the balance of a split-second decision in 1 inch. And when I talk about that, if I can set the scene, it's March 30th, 1981. It's a cloudy, gray day outside the Washington Hilton. Reagan has just delivered a speech to a trade union. In fact, it's really interesting. A lot of surprises in this book, one of which was that Reagan rewrote that speech he gave by hand, which I just found fascinating. Anyway, so he's leaving the speech, and he's walking to his waiting limousine about 25 feet away. When he's just approaching the limousine, John Hinckley Jr., a deranged gunman who was 25 years old and had an obsession with Jodie Foster, the movie actress, an infamous obsession and fixation, pulls out a revolver from his pocket and opens fire. He unleashes 6 shots in 1.7 seconds. Wow. The first one hits James Brady in the head. The second one hits a D.C. police officer. The way is clear. But by then, Jerry Parr, a 50-year-old Secret Service agent, head of the White House detail, is already reacting, like instantaneously, shoving Reagan out of the way and towards that open limousine door. The third shot went high above Reagan's head. The fourth shot hits Tim McCarthy, a Secret Service agent, in the chest, and he falls to the ground. The fifth shot hits the bulletproof window on the limousine. It hits a bulletproof window on the limousine door as they flash behind it. And the sixth shot cracked across the driveway. No one really knows where at that time, no one knows where that sixth shot went. Later, they would determine it deflected off the side of the limousine, slipped through a tiny gap about that big between the door and the door frame, and hit Reagan in the left side about right here.
I mean, that's...
Well, he doesn't know it at the time. He lands in the heap. They take off. Now, Rick, you're in D.C. How many times have you been stuck by a presidential motorcade and they seem to go on forever? It's a total pain. Imagine this. Yeah. Jerry Parr looks out the window of the car, sees 3 men down, a bullet mark in the window, and he's checking Reagan frantically, trying to see if he's been shot or wounded, and he seems okay. That limousine is alone. It left everyone behind. I mean, wow. They are barreling down Connecticut Avenue towards the White House. Unthinkable. Right. Alone, taken off. And, you know, Parr gets on the radio and says, Rawhide is okay. Rawhide is okay. And, you know, that's where I got the name of the book, Rawhide Down. Rawhide is Reagan's Secret Service code name. About 30 seconds later, Reagan starts having frothy blood in his lips, complaining of chest pain. Yeah. He has... you know, he's not doing so great, and Parr makes the decision to divert from the White House, the safest place on earth, and go to the GW hospital where there's no security.
And that's the decision that essentially saves his life, yeah.
That decision saved Reagan's life. Now think about this. If we really go back, we rewind the tape just a bit, you have Reagan, Jerry Parr is now, in the space of about 45 seconds, maybe a minute and a half, saved Ronald Reagan's life 3 times. He gets him out of the way of the immediate gunfire. Hinckley had an effective range of about 20 to 30 feet at stationary targets. If he's a split second slower, just a split second, Reagan gets it in the head as they dive in the limousine. And now he's made the decision that doctors...
And Del, I want to ask you... I just want to ask you, though, it's unthinkable what happened 30 years ago. It's changed, really, the way that we think about presidential protection as well. This wasn't that long ago in the bigger scheme, but it just seems like it sparked a revolution in the way that we even think about protecting the president.
Oh, it totally has. You know, at the time, it's really interesting. You know, they had developed all these training protocols and everything, regimens in the mid to late 70s that got agents to start reacting without thinking, and it's really only then that they did this. And a medical course that taught Parr how, hey, there's something really wrong with the president, I have to go to the hospital. And doctors would later say if they had gone to the White House, Reagan's a dead man, right? That's incredible. Now, after this, you know, magnetometers went up everywhere. The president, motorcade, the limousine, he never got in and out of the limousine in public with unscreened people. And like, they're doing all this stuff in 1981 to protect the president and save his life if something bad happened, yet they left a armed gunman unscreened just 15 feet away from the president of the United States. Right. And I just, you know, that's a fascinating aspect of this, like the incongruity of preparing for the worst but not preventing it.
Right. One quick question, Del. How is it that 30 years later we're still learning more about this?
Well, you know what I think is really interesting? It's a sweet spot in history, 20 to 30 years after an event. because you're able to get the record, the documentary record that has been sealed, hidden away. I even got Reagan's FBI interview report. You know, and in it, Reagan's talking about how he's not going to answer the reporters' questions because, you know, frankly, he's gotten, you know, he kind of got off message a few times already and they weren't doing that anymore. And then he was even going to talk about how if Hinckley had waited just a few seconds longer, I would have stood up on the limousine and waved to people across the street and his back would have been exposed. And so, like, that just came out now. I got the Secret Service reports, never been seen before. And a lot of these guys wouldn't have talked 5, 10, or maybe 5 years after the event, 10 years after the event. Now they're talking. And so you're able to get these oral interviews that from people who normally wouldn't talk, but they're free to talk now. And, you know, 10 years from now, they're not going to be around. Or 20 years from now, they're not going to be around. So I was able, very lucky, it's the perfect time to tell this incomplete story because you're able to weave the documentary record with the oral history.
And you've done a masterful job of it. The new book is Rawhide Down. Del Wilber of the Washington Post. Go read this book. It is a fascinating glimpse into history. Thanks, Del.
Hey, Rick, thank you.
Well, Amy, you wanted us to sit together by the end of the program, and the magic of television made it happen. A great read that we discussed there.
Whoa,
Isn't that great?
Wait a minute.
Well, how did you get
This
here?
is-
Oh,
What?
yeah.
Is he crashing
Klein,
your set?
where are you?
Get out of there. Get
Yeah,
out of there.
I
You're
know.
taking
Klein,
over.
are you in my
I'm
office?
taking your seat. You're not taking mine. What is going on in there?
I walk
This
out.
is-
Where's,
it's a top-line
where's
coup.
the prize?
I
All right, to be
I
settled
walk out of this
tomorrow.
place for a few minutes.
Award-winning
Twitter.com.
journalist
This
right
is
here.
out of control.
Don't listen to those guys. Twitter.com/Rick Klein.